For this recipe, I'm gonna cook chickpeas. The chickpeas are 5 tablespoon chickpeas. That they are all night soaked in water, so it make it easy for the chickpeas to cook. I use organic dried chickpeas that is gluten free. You can buy even chickpeas in a can that they are organic, and it's much easy and faster to cook, but I like the dried chickpeas, so it's gonna take a longer cook if you don't soak in water. I'm gonna use green onions, a carrot, celery, and the bell pepper, the orange one, and I'm gonna use some of the white potatoes. I in general like to use sweet potatoes. My son really likes the sweet potatoes, but this time I'm gonna put in this recipe the white potatoes, and I'm gonna use the ghee butter. If you want, you can add in this recipe even the bone broth, chicken or beef bone broth. It's gonna give more taste and more nutrition. But for this recipe, I'm gonna use only these ingredients. Now I'm gonna put to boil the chickpeas, and I put water, and I'm gonna leave them boiling. Meanwhile, I'm gonna start preparing the. So now I peel the skin and all the carrots. I washed them and I cut and I mixed all the veggies together. Now I'm gonna peel the skin of the sweet pepper so it does not hurt his stomach while he eats the sweet pepper. It's gonna it's gonna give a nice booster of the iron that chickpeas are rich, because the sweet peppers are very rich in the vitamin C. So now the vegetables are already cut, and I'm gonna put in the chickpeas to boil together and to give more nutrition and more taste to the soup that I'm gonna prepare. I decided also to add the garlic. It is not good to add too much garlic because it gives heartburns, or it gives lots of taste, so it's enough just one little garlic. So I'm gonna add the ghee. If you want, you can add bone broth, or you can cook with chicken. It comes good, but since I used lots of recipes with the bone broth and the chicken, I decided not to add in this dish chicken or bone broth. So now I put everything to boil together, and I put in a medium heat, and once in a while you come and you check and you mix them together. I start giving chickpeas at around 8 months old, and then I start using some of the herbs. In this recipe I'm gonna use the ground turmeric, just a little bit to add more flavor, and it's very healthy for the children and in general. So I blended it. Now that I saw that the chickpeas are a little softer, I'm gonna put to cook it a little bit longer, just to make a little bit more thicker and a nicer puree. So to add a little bit more flavor, I put even some leaves of fresh oregano that I grow in a garden. So I put 4 little leaves. It's gonna taste good, gives a nice taste, and it added even the nutrition of oregano. In general, I don't use that much herbs in his food, but some of the fresh oregano or fresh thyme that I grow in a garden, or the fresh mint I use in his food, and it gives a nice taste and it added even the nutrition. I suggest you to always to check in internet about the herbs, because some herbs are very strong and they are not it might create allergies or not healthy for the brain of the babies. So now, as you can see, the food is ready. It is a nice puree. I blended it and I make mushy enough, so it's gonna be very easy for him to eat. Another thing, I'm gonna prepare some of the finger food with a puree of the chickpeas and the vegetables. I took some bread and I cut them in a little pieces. So I put in a little of chickpeas puree on top of the bread, and I'm gonna make like the one. So this is the way how I offer as a finger food the chickpea soup. Actually, I can use this method even for the lentil soup or other soups or purees that you can put in the bread and they can easily eat with their hands. I choose for my son to cook fish. I start feeding him at around 7 months. Be careful to feed the fish for your child because lots of children are allergic, and you can understand their allergy from vomiting or for rashes around their face. I start steaming the fish first, and then I cooked even other recipes like baking the fish. The recipe today, I'm gonna use fish with the different veggies. The veggies that I'm gonna use is carrots, sweet potatoes, peas, green onions, and I'm gonna steam them together. The fish is a nice meal. I usually offer for lunch or for dinner. There are other parents that they choose to feed their children for breakfast because it's a nice time to absorb the omega-3. You can choose even other fish, other kind of fishes like sardines or trout or other fishes that they are low in the mercury, so they don't create high possibility for damage your brain. So I think it's a nice meal and a nice nutrition for the children to start feeding since in early age. So now I put in a steamer. The fish that I choose is boneless, and I don't usually cook the skin, so I take off the skin and I am gonna steam it and I'm gonna blend and make a puree. Now the fish is gonna steam and all the veggies for 30 minutes. So now the food is steamed and I'm gonna blend it and make a nice puree for him to eat. So now, since my son does not really eat the baby puree, so I have to make food a little thick and it is more tasty. I added the rice, so I mix together and I can feed. This is for babies that they are older than 8 months. So now I'm gonna show to you another recipe that I'm gonna cook with the beef. This is for babies that they already start eating the finger food. I'm gonna use beef, bread. There are a little bit of 4 round bowls of ground beef, some bread. If you want, you can add some mild cheddar cheese, or it's gonna be even a good taste even if you don't add mild cheese. I'm gonna use 1 beaten egg. I'm gonna use carrots, spinach. There is yellow sweet pepper, celery a little bit, just one of garlic, and one of green onions. I'm gonna mix together and I'm gonna make a nice beef patio. So now I'm gonna mix all together and I'm gonna make a nice patio. So now I'm preparing the patios. To make this round shape, I use this cup that comes from the jar, and you put this little thing, and it helps you to make a nice patios. I mixed all together and becomes a massive mushi. So I'm gonna use the ground beef and all the veggies and put here, so it makes a nice round thing. You can put as much as you want, depending on how thick you want to be your patios. I don't like to be too thick, so I mixed all together and I make it ready to put into baker. So now they're ready. I'm gonna put and bake them. I usually bake in a slow heat, and I wait until I see that the meat and the patios has a nice color. You can use even other ground meat like ground turkey, ground chicken, or ground lamb. That's a nice recipe to give to your child so he can eat with his finger. So I bake them for 40 minutes in a 360 degree, and now I'm gonna cut them in a little bit small pieces, so my child can easily grab them and eat. That's a nice meal. It's a nice snack, and of course you can offer as a lunch or as a dinner to your child. Recipe, I'm gonna cook the mushroom. I start feeding my son with mushrooms at around 10 months. Mushroom is a nice option for lunch or for dinner. I'm gonna show to you how to cook them and how in this recipe I actually bake them with sweet potatoes and cheese. He enjoy it. Mushroom I start feeding late because it does not get a smooth puree. So I decided to start feeding him at around 10 months. It's a very nice nutrition. It's the only food from all the vegan options that is rich in vitamin D. So for people that they are vegan, mushrooms are recommended to get the necessary vitamin D, which is important for general health. In general, I peel the skin, so I make sure that all any dirt or anything gets taken out of the mushrooms, even though I really wash them good and make sure that they are full clean. So now, as you can see, I put in a tray the potatoes, sweet potatoes, and the mushrooms. I cut them and I spray with olive oil. I'm gonna put this size, so if you want to cook more, you have to prepare more mushrooms and sweet potatoes. It's a nice meal. I'm gonna add even a little bit water so it becomes juicy. As you can see, there is a little bit of water and they become juicy, and it allows them to cook good. And I'm gonna add on top the cheese that I already shredded. Is the mild cheddar cheese. You can use mozzarella or other cheeses that is low in sodium. So now I cover them with the cheese. I'm gonna put in the oven in 350 degrees, and I'm gonna wait until the mushrooms and the sweet potatoes are cooked. The sweet potatoes become mushy, and I'm gonna show you in the following minutes. So as you can see, the food is cooked is for almost 1 hour, and you can see that it has a nice color. The potatoes, the sweet potatoes, are mushy. So now I'm gonna blend it and I'm gonna make a nice puree. So now the food is blended. As you can see, is easy for the baby to eat. You can make even like a little bowls, and give to your child so he can eat with a finger. It's very sweet, and the combination tastes very good. I usually give him for dinner. Or as you can see, I make even like a bowl with the mushrooms and the preparation. This is how I feed him actually, because he's getting tired of baby puree, and I try to make interesting the food. It's still very mushy and it's not easy for him to eat with finger, but I'm gonna feed him with spoon. But just I give this shape so he can find interesting the food.